All right, we will go ahead and start recording, please. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Welcome everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So moved. Second. A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So we'll just dive on into the facilities work session. Thank you for all these documents. Would you like to, Jessica, one of you two want to collaboration help us navigate through the documents you provided?
So the first one I would like to start with, just because I think it's important to kind of address, is the expectations of the Idaho Department of Education in relation to the school modernization funds. One of the first attachments in there, I believe, would be the memo from the State Department regarding the use of funds. So I just wanted to highlight again, these are meant to be capital projects that are large scale and involve substantial investments in physical assets. They have to have a useful life of at least 7 years. We are allowed to include planning, design, new construction, site acquisition, in with the improvements. So if we have to hire an engineer to get the work done, we're allowed to include that in the cost of the improvement. The term significant applies either to the asset or to the dollar amount being spent, and that's kind of dependent on the district itself. For us, I would say anything over $150,000 is pretty significant, because it is. I mean, even over 60 at this point is significant when in comparison to our budget. The funding is from tax-exempt bond proceeds, which are subject to IRS audits at the individual district level. So this is an extra level of scrutiny that we haven't necessarily had before. It doesn't mean that we're going to do anything different, because we continue to be conservative in our approach and err on the side of caution when we're working with funds like this. And the last thing, we're already taking care of the funds being in a separate account from all other funds. And that they're just telling us how to track the funding is that last little bit, how we're using it, so the specific categories. Based on this information and the surveys that were done by our previous facilities director, Architects West was super kind to work with us pro bono to help us finalize our 10-year plan and put some dollar amounts to it. So I've included that Lakeland Joint School District 10-year plan that was approved at the 12/9 board meeting in here. I used this template to kind of put together that RFQ for architect services that's currently open and will close this Thursday. You'll notice that not every school's on there, but we do have the caveat that we can add or remove projects. We just kind of gave a general idea of what we thought we would be doing based on the needs of the district right now. Tim, I think you would agree, we're really looking at electrical systems, HVAC, fire control panels, and then some plumbing needs.
Yeah, and siding.
And siding, windows, and doors at John Brown, and a couple exterior doors at Mountain View and Lakeland High School. Right. So those are kind of what we put together based on how far we thought the dollars would stretch in the beginning, as we only received just a little bit shy of 18 million. So I've also included the plant facility levy, which we can touch on as well. We do have, based on our conversation at the last board meeting on Wednesday, there's some funds there that we can talk about as well. And the last thing is the fleet inventory that we have, that Tim and Shanna put together and are tracking our facilities fleet. Our facilities fleet, Tim can speak to it more than I can, but it's used to get our facilities techs to the buildings and carry everything they need with them to get to the buildings to be able to complete maintenance as necessary.
In one.
And lawn, grounds, all the ground stuff. So with all of that, I put the documents together. I'm here to talk numbers. Tim is here to talk projects. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim.
All right. Any questions on the documents? No. Okay. So just going off of the, we'll go back to
Or keyword 10-year plan.
yeah, that's what I was looking at. Okay. So if we open up the 10-year plan, Jessica and I took some notes down, just kind of, so the 10-year plan is basically all the buildings were evaluated. Mike went through and did a lot of really good legwork on parts of the facilities that he saw that were, you know, good, fair, or outright needs to be replaced, fixed. With that was kind of how the 10-year plan was built. It was based on what needs to be done immediately versus what can be kicked down the road for a little bit. So like Jessica said, the biggest right now is, you know, for safety, security, and functionality of the buildings right now, we need HVAC, we need locking doors, we need fire control systems. So
Electrical overhaul.
electrical has been a huge deal. As you know, Timberlake's tried to catch on fire, Lakeland High School's tried to catch on fire, the middle school, and Timberlake more than once. So just starting at Lakeland High School, so some of the projects identified there at the high school, the electrical systems, the electrical service and distribution.
Is that the middle school?
The middle school's your first
Thank
one.
you, middle school, Lakeland Middle School. That's the biggest electrical issue that we have right now is the Lakeland Middle School. There are so many different panels in that building, as it's with the add-ons and everything. There's panels that are completely overloaded now, or not overloaded, are at capacity. Nothing else can be added to them. The good news is the lights are getting replaced, so that is going to reduce the load on some of those panels. That one right now is going to need new panels, and then some wiring, probably a lot of wiring, outlet switches, and then the related repairs that go along with that. If you got to cut some drywall out to get some wiring fixed in the wall, drywall's got to be replaced, ceiling panels, things like that. I would hold off on having to do any saw cutting in the concrete, because I think most of this can be done overhead anyway. But they estimated $1 million worth of repairs just in the electrical and associated items with that.
So that would include an electrical engineer,
Yes.
because we do have to bring in an engineer for that project to make sure we're up to code on everything. And then also working to make sure that we include all the components that need to be replaced as we replace the electrical, like Tim said. So
Correct.
those costs would be built into that project, which is why it's
And
hefty.
keep in mind, these are budget numbers, because without the electrical engineer going through the building, we don't have hard, firm numbers yet.
Yeah, these are just estimates based on, like I said, Architects West was kind enough to help us kind of put some realistic numbers to this, because when I was doing this, I can budget things, but I'm not a facilities tech and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the true cost of these projects. They were doing it based on what they're seeing in industry right now for the cost.
Correct. Similar projects that they've worked on in the past, and they're commercial based. HVAC improvements, they estimated $540,000. This is replacing a lot of the smaller area heaters. You have entryway heaters, you have hallway heaters, you have then the exhaust hoods. This is what gives you the air exchange in the building. The gym needs a new exhaust hood. That one's been down for a while. And then 7 classroom heaters that are limping along as we go through right now. Interior improvements, they had budgeted $540,000, and where it has the partitions, that's the dividers in the bathroom. Ceilings, doors, there's a few doors that need to be replaced. They had put in there the floors and things like that, but that is...
We're being a little cautious on that.
Carpet can't really fall under this from what we've been looking at because of the lifespan. It would fall under
The 7-year mark.
7 years. Carpet, it traditionally has a 7-year lifespan. So commercial carpet might have a little bit more, but be an IRS deal right there. Safety and security and improvement. A lot of the schools, you're going to see this on a lot of them. The fire control panels, a lot of them are out of date, not working. There's a couple of them that have proprietary software connected to them with the company that doesn't work well with us. So the actual control panel themselves need to be replaced in a lot of the buildings.
Is this the issue we ran into with Garwood here not that long ago?
Garwood is one of them. I have 3 that are on my top 3 worst fire panels: Timberlake High School, Betty Kiefer, and Garwood.
And just to help understand why Garwood and Betty Keeper didn't show up on here, I kind of was going through the projects and the buildings, trying to keep things a little bit together. And so when you added up what we have right now, that's 18 million. It's not to say that we can't shift one thing or another.
Right.
It just wasn't in the architect RFQ at this time. But we have a caveat in there that we can change what we're doing.
So, Tim, I think Chair Thompson's asking, because we had the issue at Garwood where we had to do the fire watch because the panel had gone down because of the signal. So we changed the signal, but you're actually talking about the panel itself.
The whole panel.
So it's different than
Yes.
attaching it to a cellular signal.
Correct.
The signal we have had no issues on cellular signal since we've upgraded
Since
all of that.
everything's switched over, it's been pretty good.
Very quiet.
The only thing we did get is a false alarm here. And we typically get false alarms at the high school when the power flickers. And for some reason we didn't today, which I was really surprised. Let's see, that's the middle school. Going down into Lakeland High School. A lot of similar electrical. There are 4 or 5 add-ons to Lakeland High School. And each one of them, again, same as middle school, they have these separate panels that are full. Just a lot of issues with electrical in the schools in general. HVAC, you're going to see that on a lot of these as well, because we have 525 systems throughout the district, and not anything that's been replaced recently is John Brown and the roof, gym roof. Other than that, the other systems are 15, 20 years old at the youngest.
I'm not sure if you specified or clarified what is site, because we have monies allocated to site, and I don't know what that means.
So when I was building this 10-year plan, one of the things with the state was we had some deferred maintenance that we already had in plans. So that's your concrete at the site, the concrete work. So that's why there's money in that line item. We're using plant facility money for that, but I still have to reflect it in our 10-year plan because it's something that we're doing. So I apologize. Okay. The caveat is this 10-year plan encompasses every deferred maintenance project that we have, regardless of funding source. Obviously, there's not enough money in the 18 million to do all the work that we need to do in the next 10 years. So it's reflecting some of the projects that the board had already approved towards concrete and the carpet and some of the schools, things like that. That's being reflected in this plan as well.
Okay. And what are specialties?
specialties, that was a fun one. Those are things like the
Elevator at Timberlake.
Timberlake High School. Things that are not a normal thing that you, I wouldn't say normal, things that are just
Not
a little,
traditional
not traditional, unique.
for a school.
So we have a school with a generator that would fall under a specialty. The partitions on the stage are a specialty, things like that.
Okay.
Okay, Lakeland High School. Okay, again, electrical. They are getting the new LED lights
For free.
for free. I think the only schools that are not getting the LED upgrade are Garwood and Apple. Because they are Kootenai Electric. Let's see. Okay, Lakeland High School. Again, they have some HVAC systems that need to be replaced. And the safety security improvements, a lot of that is the exterior doors and some of the windows. If you go in, I'll say it's the teacher's entrance by the library, that's one of the worst ones. The entire door frame will move. There's not much holding these things in place anymore. John Brown.
Before you leave the high school,
Sure.
do you know which HVAC units we're talking about replacing?
Yeah, if I remember right, when I talked to Ken about that one, it was the Lakeland High School 3 MAU unit heaters. Okay, so the batting practice room above the small gym. That one is a good sized unit.
There's like 3 of them in there, isn't there?
Yeah, he says 3 in here. And then he had fresh air makeup. So our HVAC guys have an entire spreadsheet that they're working on of aging the equipment. And this one, I know that one above the practice room, and I want to say on the east side, there were a couple units on top. I don't know what that's over. It's got the, it's not the gym.
The
It's
shop.
just
The shop.
past the shop on the upper level.
Commons? So
It might be the commons area. I think a bunch of those got damaged with a snow drift a year or 2 ago, and they still don't work properly. A couple of them are cooling units, but a lot of the problems that we're seeing are the air exchangers and the heat exchangers. So the boilers or the heating portion seem to be working fairly well. I know Lakeland High School, they've been spending the last month in there working on the controls in the furnace room upstairs. There's wire shorts that they're running down right now. Ken got zapped the other day, low voltage, woke him up.
pay attention.
Yeah, but he has run down a couple those things as they vibrate. A lot of those low voltage wires, they're not shielded,
Right.
and then they wear through, and then it's just a matter of finding where.
So based on our survey of that building, the original structure
Oh, there you go.
from 1979, it's the primary heating source, the primary air system equipment, and then the building controls. And then as you go throughout the different iterations of additions, we have the primary heating source in the 1980 portion of the building, along with the terminal
think
package
that's right.
units and the building controls.
Controls have been a big thing
Building
lately.
controls is a huge part of it, and the primary cooling source in the 1986 portion of the building.
Yep.
So there's different things. It's not a complete overhaul, but it's just addressing the specific areas in the building that need to be taken care of,
Yep.
based on the walkthrough of the building and
So you're not talking about replacing entire units, you're
No,
talking about correcting whatever the deficiencies are.
right.
correct.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to replace anything that's currently working. It's just the parts of the system. The controls, that's what Ken's been working on too. They've had Ken and John and Shane all up there working on those. But the good news is, with David and his preventive maintenance program that he's been doing, as he's up there changing out filters, belts, and lubing the systems, we bought him 1,000 zip ties. And he's been up there corralling wires and keeping them off of metal surfaces so we don't get that rubbing. So they've really gone the extra step to help ensure that we don't have issues in the future. We just have a lot of deferred maintenance that is catching up. And when one of these air handlers go down, it's a pretty big building and it's hard to recoup. Let's see. Oh, and then I mentioned the doors. It's more than just the library side. I just mentioned that side because I know you can almost just pull that thing right out of the frame.
I want to verify something, Jessica. That several of these are showing early on dollar amounts for site.
Those are all concrete projects that are going
So
out.
that's what you were talking about? Okay, nothing more than that?
No.
Okay.
Let me take that back. So concrete projects, and then there's some money set aside for either parking lot striping and repair or parking lot repairs with the plant facility levy money. So that's
Yeah,
also
I was going to
included.
say, but that's not this money.
No, it's, so like I said, the 18 million plus what we have already designated in the plant facility levy is reflecting in this 10-year plan.
All the work that we're doing.
Yeah, the 10-year plan is everything all encompassing.
And
then we've tried to break down just what we can utilize out of that from the 18 million.
based on the years that they were put into in the 10-year plan.
Let's see. Okay, John Brown again. Electrical systems, service panels, new wiring, outlet switches. Again, they're getting the LED lights through Avista for free. They also gave us an idea of, based on historical costs for doing the siding, windows, and door replacements at John Brown. And then HVAC improvements are the same thing as the other two schools. It's just a lot of the entryway heaters, hallway heaters, air handlers, and controls.
I have a question about John Brown. We've got four interior classrooms? They're not, they don't have an exterior
Correct.
outside wall. Those 4 classrooms, if I recall, unless something has changed, do not have air exchange.
No.
You might want to look at that.
I'll look at that.
Referring to those 4 right here, because they're all inside.
They're all interior.
You don't have any windows or anything for.
They were part of the original structure.
Yes, they are. They were actually outside originally.
Originally, and then
Right.
they became part of the hallway.
From the hallway and
Yeah.
those other classrooms out front.
They're the white part of this map.
Yeah.
So,
I'll look into that for sure.
Tim, not those windows that are up on top, those open between the 2 rooms to allow them office.
I know that they either had the vent in the door or no, not in the door.
I was answering
Oh.
those windows between, so room 8 was my first grade classroom when I first started, and then Betty Mops was next door to me. Those windows in between did not open.
They didn't open. Okay. I know those doors are left open quite a bit, but air exchange.
That's something that we ought to remedy if it hasn't been remedied.
Agreed. Yeah, they need fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that because we do have that working on the HVAC for John Brown as part of this as well. And then the safety and security improvements, fire control panel, that one could be updated as well. And then interior improvements with the updating is a couple of the interior doors that need to be replaced. partitions in the bathrooms that don't have them, and some of the plumbing. Matter of fact, we just had an issue today where by room 9, floor drain. Yeah, you were out there, backing up. We've been getting a lot of these lately.
You know, another issue, and I can't remember for sure about plumbing, but I know that there's a lot of, in the old part of the building, there's a lot of underground conduit. And that has caused problems in the past because conduit doesn't withstand the moisture long term.
Yep.
And those things will eventually short out, and then you can't pull the wire out of them.
No, I think that's part of the problem at the middle school here.
It would be because they were built at the same time,
Yeah.
same architectural designs.
That's why when I was looking at electrical, we would abandon that conduit and try to go overhead
Yeah,
and save from being in that environment.
yeah. We were forced to do that in a couple of instances for electric heaters.
Well, yeah, it works fine when you put it in a slab when it's not intended to last.
When it's new, it works.
Yeah.
After 50 years, it doesn't work so well.
No, and that's, yeah, I've found that a lot with some of the older parts of the buildings, that what was code at the time, or if they followed the code, it's been 50 years.
Like I say, I can't remember about plumbing, whether there's some underslab plumbing in the old part of that building or not. If it is and it's copper, it'll do the same thing. It'll deteriorate.
And if it's old enough, it might be cast, and that disintegrates as well.
So that building and the original part of the middle school warrant some detailed investigation, I guess I would call it.
Yes, they're those old, even the drain lines will rust out,
Eventually, yeah.
and then you get dirt and everything in there and get that clog. One of the things, go off track a little bit, but one of the things that we're looking at for this summer is getting where the sewer main comes out of the building, is hydrojetting it, where they shoot everything out of it between there and the sewer line for the city. That's where we've been finding a lot of blockages, is actually in the parking lot. So you run your snake out as far as you can. The last one was 60 feet out from Timberlake Middle School, and there was another one, might have been Lakeland High School.
Lakeland High School? Yeah.
Lakeland High School. Yeah,
Was way
back
out.
in, like 60 feet out to
Yeah.
get to the fog.
Yeah, if it gets settling over time or something like that,
Tree roots.
it'll cause those.
Tree roots are horrible. Yeah. Okay, I'll move this along for you guys. Timberlake High School, some electrical, not as much. Obviously, it's a newer school. Part of that was to repair the emergency generator and get that back online.
What's the matter with it?
It blew up, like literally from what I was told,
It blew up.
blew up. Was a year or two ago?
No, it's been
About 3 years, I think.
3 years?
Superintendent.
I think it's
Okay.
been 3 or 4 years, yeah.
It's been down for a long time.
Yeah, they said something happened and it literally blew. Manifold or something off of it.
A replacement, or do you know yet?
I don't know yet. Last time I looked at it, I mean, a lot of the material was still there intact. I'm guessing it might have been a manifold or something that blew up. I'm hoping it's something they can repair versus replace, 'cause that's a good sized generator.
If it's the generator itself, you're gonna have to replace it.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's
If
looked at it
If it's
since.
a motor, it might be something we can repair.
Right. And I think it runs off of
It's
gas, or is it diesel?
It's a diesel
Is
motor.
it diesel? So hopefully it's just the motor and it can be repaired. Excuse me. Again, interior improvements, which are actually, we budgeted for carpet. Oh wait, that's Timberlake High School.
So the initial projects were budgeted for carpet and things like that. That's before we received the guidance regarding the IRS guidelines. That was something, I think that was news to some of us that attended that spring conference. So that's why we're...
So these numbers are kind of bogus then?
The interior improvements, I would say if we're doing partitions or plumbing fixtures or things like that, I think we're fine. The carpet is where I get a little nervous, just because looking at IRS depreciation of assets, it's 5 years for carpets, and that directly, we have a 7-year requirement on this one, so I'm being cautious on that.
Yeah, you got $850,000
Yeah.
for interior. Do you have a feel for how much of that was carpet?
A lot of it.
That's why I said the numbers
Yeah.
are bogus.
The numbers on the interior, I would say, are pretty bogus. So that would allow us to actually do some other projects
Shift that
further down
money
the line.
to
Mhm.
other services. Yeah.
Yeah, when we looked at this, we looked at longevity and immediate needs, which are a lot of the electrical, HVAC, plumbing. The other thing is the elevator at Timberlake High School has not been operable since 2008. Does that sound right? Mike told me today, I can't remember what it was.
Longer than I've been here. I've been here
It's-
10 years, so.
It's been down for quite a while.
There's a whole story behind that, but that's something that we need to address.
Yeah, it needs to be taken care of sooner rather than later.
Yes,
The 65,000 for roofing at Timberlake.
that's already been taken care of. That was part of the plant facility levy. That was where the company came out and fixed it.
Where we keep getting the ice dams.
Ice dams.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Poor design.
So the elevator would fall under the specialties, and we only have $150,000 in there.
155. 165. Oh, and then 90 over here.
Yeah, but I don't.
But we have 850 in carpet that we're not doing, so you.
What's the elevator?
Yeah, I just know
It's
that.
to-
I mean, if it was only going to take $150,000 to fix the elevator, we should have done it way before now. So it's a little. I don't think $150,000 is enough to fix that elevator
Do we know
and get it
what's-
operational.
Do we know what's wrong with it?
The control panel was ripped out of it.
Correct.
By a previous inspector. It sounds like maybe a while ago.
Yeah.
From what I'm understanding,
Yes.
the previous director was told not to use it because it needed to be inspected. He didn't want to follow through with the inspection, so the inspector came and just pulled the components out and said you can't use it.
Well, call him up and tell him to bring it back. Otherwise, we're gonna send the sheriff for it.
Yeah, that was
That was a
15
long
years
time
ago.
Yeah, that was 3 directors ago.
So that's my understanding. Obviously, I wasn't here at that time.
That's
Tim wasn't
just
here at that time. That's just what we were told.
So it would work if it had the control panel in it, probably.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
then,
easy enough to find out what that costs.
Yes.
yes, and we're gonna get at least somebody out to look at it to give us an idea of cost.
I know.
I never heard.
When I heard that today, I was like, okay.
I have no idea
The
what it was.
inspector has that type
I-
of authority, but
Mhm.
I think it was
maybe.
a power struggle between two people that went awry.
Yeah, I don't know that that's legally if that can happen.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Again, this is hearsay.
It is
Right.
hearsay, and it was quite a while ago, but
But we know that the control panel is not there.
Correct.
And this being an ADA situation,
It needs to be.
the fact that it's
I'm surprised.
pushed
no
out
one's-
to 27.
It's pushed out to 27 on there only because we were trying to scale projects. That's something I think we could definitely do this summer with
Yeah.
board approval to move forward with that project. I'm hearing that, I know it's a workshop tonight, we would have
Use
to.
some carpet money to replace it.
Exactly. So the second floor is where the weight room is upstairs. And it's not just for ADA purposes, but also our head custodian has to take equipment upstairs and she drags it up the stairs. So it's not so much for student use as it is for handicap and
Right.
hauling materials. But I will definitely get somebody in there to get eyes on it so we can at least get numbers that we can present.
This might be a separate question, but shouldn't we investigate how this happened and then find out which inspector actually did it? And wouldn't there be any insurance, potential insurance, or?
I
think
think we're way past the
way
statute. on
past.
Statute of
that.
limitations, time-wise, is probably.
And this guy's
beyond-
probably retired by
Yes.
now, and
It's been brought to us a couple of times that
That-
that it's not working.
I understand that, but was it brought to us that the panel was ripped out by an inspector? I don't recall that little.
I don't know that
Again,
that's ever been.
That tidbit is something
Okay.
I learned today.
yeah, I
Again,
learned today as well.
I don't know the validity of that. That's
Okay.
just what we were told.
Yeah.
So neither one of us was here in 2008.
2008, I believe.
Just
is what he
fix
said.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Okay, Spirit Lake. Again, older electrical systems. A lot of new panels. The good news about the panels and wiring and things like that, it's gonna, if it's done right, it's gonna last us a long time into the future. Minor HVAC improvements there. I believe the system in the gym cafeteria, Spirit Lake. Is that on the list? Does it show? That one's had some issues in the past. Excuse me. Yeah, they don't have a ton on here.
So Spirit Lake was the primary heating source in the original building
That's, yeah.
around HVAC.
Yep.
Yep. And then the primary heating source in the 1974 edition. Primary heating source in the 1984 edition.
So another 3 systems.
And then in the 1991. And the 1994.
5 systems.
1995. Yeah, so all of the iterations of Spirit Lake, it's the primary heating source that we're looking at, either updating or replacing.
Let's see. And then some plumbing.
There's a lot of interior dollars, 600.
There is, and I think a lot of that, when they did the 10-year plan, was set up for carpet, tile, things like that. That
That's
are,
flooring again that we
Yeah.
can't do.
it's, and
We do
some of
have
that,
some set aside with the 220,000
Right,
that was
correct.
just moved back into that line item.
Mhm.
yep.
That's plant facility $11. It's
Right.
not this 18 million project.
Yes.
And based on the research that I've done, like I said on the IRS stuff, it's that 5-year threshold for carpet that
Mhm.
is causing us to kind
What about
So-
tile? What's the
of,
expected life on?
Tile
On
should
tile.
Well,
be,
are you talking
Or-
about the expected life of the material, or are you talking about the depreciation schedule that's allowable by the IRS?
it's the depreciation schedule that's
Okay,
allowable.
so it's
in
not
it.
the life
It's
of
the
the
useful
product.
life.
Yeah.
Because
It's the depreciable.
It's the
life.
depreciable, which is the useful
Okay.
life for in accounting terms.
but it doesn't
So
mean
that's what
carpet has to be
we're-
replaced in 5 years.
It's just what
It just
we're
means you
allowed
don't
to
get the-
depreciate it on.
Right.
Mhm.
And which means that's the
Okay,
useful
so
life,
that's-
which is under the 7-year mark, so. my
Which is
favorite.
bogus because we got
It is.
we got carpet that's 40 years old.
I know that. That's why I was like, I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out what you mean it's only, that
Yeah.
doesn't, that's not accurate.
Yeah, I can
But you're not
pull it.
talking about the life of the material, you're just talking about the depreciable
Yeah.
schedule that we can receive a benefit from.
Yes.
It's been recarpeted, but not all of it.
Yeah, but
Um,
no restrooms, the original.
So specifically, they consider 5-year property to be appliance, carpets, furniture, etc. Certain geothermal, solar, wind property, they don't specify tile specifically. 7-year would
Okay,
be
so flooring is flooring is.
flooring is flooring.
Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, tile would have a much longer
Mhm.
lifespan.
Interesting enough that 10-year property is a tree or vine bearing fruits or nuts, so figure.
Okay, and Spirit Lake.
What's the plumbing at Spirit Lake?
It's just some of the interior some of the older urinals and toilets and
Fixtures.
It's mainly
fixtures
fixtures.
and, yeah, P-traps on some of the,
It's fixtures in the initial first part of the building, the domestic water piping inside the building,
Domestic,
and
that's what I was trying to
then
think of.
sanitary vent and piping. Those are the things in that first initial structure. After that, it's kind of the same throughout the building. So it's looking like it's mainly fixtures and those 3 things.
and then safety and security improvements, which is
Fire panel.
fire panel.
Do we know what the specialty is at Spirit Lake Elementary?
One.
Probably restaurant panels, I guess, but I don't know.
Some of it was
It's like
the,
fixed cabinetry, which we won't be able to do, dependent on how the depreciation is. We felt like we're gonna spend the money, that it might be worthwhile to put it into those major systems, like the electrical and things like that, before we started taking into account cabinetry and writing surfaces. That's what falls under specialties. So specialties are elevators and lifts, fixed cabinetry, fixed lab equipment, fixed kitchen equipment, lockers, writing surfaces, and stage equipment. So
Writing
surfaces
surfaces
and
and
whiteboard.
Like whiteboard.
whiteboards and
Mhm.
chalkboards and so
Yeah.
forth, yeah.
so
and then I think the accordion
the stage, yeah, the stage.
stage
Yeah.
doors.
Additions and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what your specialties are. Some more of those interior components, remodel components,
Yeah.
I guess.
cabinetry.
I wouldn't call them luxuries, but
So on the
Compared to other things,
Yes.
they kinda are.
Yeah, on the, going back to John Brown, which is the next one down, but we have nothing in there at all for plumbing, and we actually had that pipe burst a year or 2 ago at John Brown. There was a lot of water damage, because it is all copper plumbing in there, piping. And we don't have anything in the 10 years to address the copper pipes at John Brown.
again, that's probably the fact that I didn't do a great job. I wasn't aware of our plumbing and all of our things, and we had some transition at the time this was done. I do have in the notes for John Brown that maybe instead of doing some of the interior projects in other areas, because we found out about the carpet not being a thing, we're going to add plumbing to
Okay.
John Brown.
Yep.
Was that an overhead pipe
No, it was in the wall.
in the wall?
Yeah.
Must be an exterior wall.
It was an interior
It was an
wall.
interior wall.
But it was in the
It-
storeroom, right?
Yeah, it wasn't, it didn't burst because of cold necessarily, it just the welds eventually
Oh, okay.
fall apart.
Just gave out.
Because the copper pipes are they only have a lifespan of 50 years, and John Brown's all over that, so it won't be the last one that goes if we don't do anything about it.
But definitely, we have
Yeah.
a lot of money in interior improvements that we could move towards plumbing. So really focusing,
Yeah.
like I said, on electrical systems, plumbing, the siding, windows and doors at John Brown, fire panels, those kind of things.
Nothing in there for plumbing.
Right.
And on my notes, that's what we used for the interior improvements.
As we changed it to plumbing
Um,
in our notes.
One of the other things that we'd like to do with some of these plumbing upgrades as we go through the buildings is put some isolation valves in certain wings, so that if we do have a pipe break like that, we can at least isolate that one wing without shutting the
down
whole
the
school.
Mhm. And those isolation valves aren't terribly expensive.
They're not very expensive. You
it-
splice into the line.
It's just a splice, it's just the money to do
Costs
it.
more to put them in than what the valve costs.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. But
Very much
ideal,
so.
because then we
Just
can
if you're
continue to
paying
have
for a
school and just
Mhm.
not have
We don't
water
have
in
to
that
send kiddos
one.
home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you pay for the plumber and it does break or give out, then their insurance covers it.
As long as it's not 15 years later.
Yes.
Correct.
Way to be
Okay.
realistic.
Question on the funding that you've set aside for John Brown, window siding and all of that. When you brought that to the board a couple of years ago, you were insistent on including the district office. Is that still a plan?
I would love to do it, but priority-wise, it's our buildings and our students.
Okay, so
The district
you're
office
not-
doesn't look great, but it is what it is.
Okay, but So this 18 million will not cover siding and whatnot for the district
It
office?
could, because it's a district building, but
Okay.
I felt it was, and that's just me, and if you guys have, you could say otherwise, it's at the board discretion, but I felt it important to take care of our student buildings prior to taking care of any of our admin buildings. So
Okay.
tech, well, tech's in the middle school, but
Yeah.
facilities, transportation, district office, food service, unless it was related to the classroom for Mountain View at the food service building, I would not recommend any of this money go towards that, because we have so much that needs to be done in our 10-year plan that does not include those buildings. Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay, let's see. That was Spirit Lake.
mhm.
Okay, going on to Athol. Again, electrical systems, service and distribution, new panels, new wiring, basically bring things up to code again, and then the interior repairs related to that. Do you have the HVAC for that one? This one had the
Do you
interior.
know, excuse me, Tim,
Yeah.
do you know on some of these electricals, is any of that intended for expanded electrical outlets and that sort of
Yeah.
thing?
So that's where I
Yeah.
think, sorry,
No, you're fine.
go ahead.
You can, it's, yes, so to answer your question, we have an electrical engineer come in and basically rework the system. Instead of having 4 or 5 different split systems going through, we can bring everything together that will give us the opportunity to have extra outlets for whatever we may need. I've found
I know in some of the older classrooms, they're
Oh,
pretty
on-
limited. Yeah.
very much so. I've seen where not just one classroom, but a couple of them are all on 115 amp circuit. And we found that, I want to say it was Garwood, classroom 20, the overhead projector.
Yeah, the projector and the Chromebook charger.
Had gone out 2-3 times. Nobody could figure it out. We had an electrician out there. We ran tracing on the cables. Well, what we found out is that the entire room, plus part of the other classroom and the hallway, was all on one circuit. So when they plugged the Chromebook card in, it gave it a brownout, and it fried their overhead projectors. So we had to tell them to stop plugging Chromebook card in. But yes, this would address those issues very much so.
Thank you.
And then, no, HVAC for Apple. And safety and security again is the fire panel for that one.
So this one is some units need of an update in the original
The
building.
original building.
And then 1970, it's the same across the board throughout the building, regardless of the age of the addition, that we just need to update some of the units.
That fire panel, if I recall correctly, the one in the office, is that the one you're talking about?
Correct, yeah.
That was replaced with the last addition at Athol.
Oh. I had that one.
2000.
2000.
I remember.
So that still was 25 years ago.
Good memory, Bob.
Way to go.
And I will say with these fire panels is they would be looked at by an appropriate company, Johnson Controls, somebody
Yeah.
like that, before we just willingly go out and replace all of them.
You don't want to just start ripping them out so people can talk about you 10 years later?
Yeah, exactly. And then Mountain View.
The interior, 720.
Oh, that
Is that
again,
carpet again?
carpet.
Flooring? Okay, but we do have some money that we can.
So Athol will probably need some plumbing updates as well. It is old enough that I think we looked at the domestic, some of the domestic water lines
Was the
inside.
original plus 5 additions or something like that? I don't know.
It's quite a few, Athol. Yeah.
So you-
The original isn't very big.
Like
There was only 3
classrooms.
classrooms.
Oh,
It
geez.
was 68, 74, 84, 91, 94, and 98 in 2000.
6, 7.
So if we use some of that 720,000 that's in there for interior for plumbing, in fiscal years 30 and 31, you have 210,000 for plumbing. Would that be?
We can move plumbing up,
reallocated?
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, these projects were spaced out in a way that it would be manageable over the summer. This is our best guess estimate just based on what we thought we would be able to do. You'll notice in some years there's a little bit of money for that project so that there's more money in the following year, and that's so that we can get the planning done in order to
Get rocking on the
get
main
going.
project, yeah.
So it's completely at the board's discretion which ones we prioritize. We're just bringing to you what we feel the priority should be.
So is it how important is it when we talk about like Spirit Lake and we're talking about electrical and then we're talking about fire panels, how important is it to have that electrical situated before we start getting in there with the fire panels and seeing where?
Well, Lakeland Middle School, I would do them in tandem.
Circuits, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
may run through some common areas, but they're separate circuits.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the anticipated cost for electrical in totality and the fire and safety in totality?
Let me hold on a number for you. So electrical would be 4.6 million. Give me 1 second. Thank you.
I think it's over.
And some of these line items might be slightly over.
Okay.
I think they're addressing not only the fire panels, but also like sprinkler systems and things like that. So. Fire and safety over the 10-year plan would be 4.147. So a total of 8.8 together. Based on rudimentary numbers.
Yeah, once we get the RFQ for architect services, then we can.
Yeah, you got a lot of work stacked up for this coming year, coming summer. I don't know when you're planning on doing it all, but.
So the concrete will go out to bid on the 7th, and then that's to run this summer. The parking lots we're currently working on for the summer. We would really like to do it with the board's permission, John Brown this summer and Lakeland Middle School electrical, which we both think are projects that can get done before school starts if we're able to move forward with them quickly. The RFQ for architect services, we're bringing the responses to the board at our April board meeting for approval on that contract so we can move forward. I do think with the information that we have from our 3 previous iterations of siding, windows, and doors, we have a lot of the specs that we need. It just needs to be updated specific to that school, which I think we could do pretty quickly so that we can get that out to bid. The nice thing with having someone with Tim's background on staff is we're able to do a lot of the construction management on the inside instead of relying on somebody else to do that for us. So that
April,
is a benefit.
You're not gonna bid that project until May?
We're hoping to bid it as soon as we get board approval for the architect.
Yeah, that's a tough go.
It is.
Keep in mind for the future, when you look at schedule,
Yes,
you know, a project of that size, it should bid out probably in February, 1st of March at the latest.
completely agree.
Because bidding late, you're gonna get premium bids instead of hungry bids.
And if it's cost prohibitive, obviously we'll bring bids to the board for approval, but just because we're bidding it doesn't mean we have to do it, but it definitely is something that we feel is important to be done, so.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been pending in my mind for a long time.
And the way we did the concrete breakout, it's, you have your base,
And then we
add
have
alternate,
additionals.
add alternate, add alternate. So if the bid does come back way over what our budget could be, we can start with the dire needs first.
So,
Okay.
So on this 10-year plan though, for fiscal year 26, you're showing electrical work for Spirit Lake and electrical work for John Brown.
which would be next summer,
So June of 26, okay.
yeah. So FY25, really what we are trying to accomplish this year, if we can, is John Brown window siding, doors, and Lakeland Middle School electrical. Along with the previously approved projects in the plant facility levy. So Lakeland Middle School, bleachers and floor, the concrete projects, and then the parking lot projects that were approved with plant facility levy money.
And carpet.
And carpet, lots of carpet. I think we added it up, it was like $405,000 for flooring this summer, which Tim's already in the process of getting quotes on.
Bring them out over spring break, walk buildings so they can get the measurements and
We'll have those at the
Get the bids
April board
in.
meeting as well.
okay, let's see.
So the
So-
carpeting has to be paid, not out of the 18 million, but out of what?
Out of the plant facility levy, which we currently have money set aside for
Left in.
that.
Okay.
Probably not for all of the carpet that's.
No,
identified
not
here.
all of the carpet,
Mhm.
but it'll be Betty Keeper, the carpet and the cafeteria tile, Garwood's cafeteria tile, and then Spirit Lake,
Apple.
Lakeland
Lakeland
High
Lakeland
School.
High School on there, but we did Lakeland High School carpet. in
Yeah,
the
we're just double
commons
checking.
already.
I
Just
thought
in the
there was-
commons, yeah, I did talk to Mike about that this morning. They did the commons, but he didn't branch out into classrooms or anything yet.
The classrooms aren't carpeted, they're tile.
Are they, Tom? That was the hallway he
The
was
hallway.
talking about.
So, and then there was one more. Who was the other one? Garwood. Carpet.
Yes.
Yep. And then the Lakeland Middle School carpet abatement, which we were able to save quite a bit of money on. So that will be done as well this summer.
Didn't we do Garwood carpet?
It's just a continuation.
Some of it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
Apple, Garwood, Lakeland High School, Spirit Lake is just a continuation of projects that were already started.
Okay.
And Betty Kiefer has
Betty
not been started.
It's the whole building for Betty
Yeah.
Keeper.
It's the original carpet.
Yes, it is. It's holding up fairly well.
Yeah, I will say, Bill keeps pretty good care of that up there. Okay, Mountain View. Exterior doors, and a couple of the interior doors that need to be replaced there for safety. The HVAC improvements, they have a massive boiler, which I just love. But the replacements are, the fixes are just some of the radiators and things like that that have fallen by the wayside over the years. Again, a very old building, domestic water piping inside the building, a lot of that needs to be redone.
We actually got a letter from the city telling us that they couldn't identify what type of piping we had in there. I thought we needed to take a look at that.
I'm guessing it's a little bit of everything.
The old building?
Mountain View,
Yeah, well, it's built in 1935.
37. Well,
Probably clay.
Somewhere.
Clay.
It's a WPA project.
Have you seen the boiler in that building? It's very,
That's why, man, I love that thing.
It's all steel.
Some of it,
Longer than the other ones.
if it's steel underneath the slab, it's gonna be,
Some of it is, and we did a project to rejuvenate the shower rooms at one point. The guy had to go in there and break out some concrete. He said it was the hardest concrete he ever worked with.
And the showers
Yeah.
are back in there. Functions.
Are they?
Yep, took care of that.
Well, some of that was redone. Everything in the walls was redone. But if anything's under slab, it just was a connection.
yeah. There's doors down going to the gym and going out of the gym that don't really work very well. So that was another
The
part of
back
that.
doors.
Back doors.
Double
and
back
we
door.
did just replace some of the doors at Mountain View. There was 10,000 for that, so that was done, but there's other doors that need to be done.
Yeah, the one going into the gymnasium doesn't actually close and lock. And then the one going out the back, the water is coming in underneath the threshold. It's all rotted out. And it's actually starting to rot the wood on the gym floor.
We had a kid set a sprinkler down in there one time. Guess what happened? The gym
Warped
floor-
the floor.
Yeah, it rose up almost as high as this table on one end.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Just like that.
He did. He did.
And then the fire panel was the other thing with Mountain View.
Okay.
And then Twin Lakes is that boiler system that I talked about at the board meeting the other day, which is a array of 5 that does power the whole school, but it's falling apart.
And we're not gonna touch it for 10 years?
No, we actually had asked for the money to do that at the board meeting last week. And so that's, I wanted to clarify. I went back and listened to the motion a couple times and I wasn't sure if we were using the 107 from the building change orders. If we are, then we can definitely do that project. If not, I wasn't. I was just looking for clarification. So. I knew I threw a lot at you guys that night, so I apologize. So we can do it out of the plant facility levy money, but it does qualify under the 18 million to do it under there. So if we'd like to save some of the plant facility money, the nice thing about that fund is we can carry that balance forward. So knowing that we don't have a plant facility levy for next year, and knowing that if the levy does pass, we won't have a ton of extra money for our facility department above and beyond what we currently have budgeted for that. We could carry forward fund balance in the plant facility levy as an emergency fund for next fiscal year. So if we move the $65,000 for the boiler to the 18 million, which is an allowable expense under the 18 million, that gives us some wiggle room in the plant facility levy to potentially have that carry forward, just to kind of buy us some emergency funds
Good
for next
idea.
fiscal year.
That's a good idea.
We spent a lot of time talking after that meeting
Yeah.
of, well, what's that gonna look like? So let's fix that. So when we did the rebudget, it was fix these couple of items and then whatever you had left, go ahead and use these, I think it was the emergency funds that were in there for that. I wasn't clear on the 107, so I left it. That would leave us about, if you factor in the building budget, 270,000 as an emergency fund for next fiscal year if we wanted to carry that forward.
If you put twin in.
If we put twin in the 18 million in the school modernization funds, if we did the boiler system there, which is an allowable expense. So just something to think through as we look at what we're going to do next year. If the levy does not pass, the money that currently is going towards property tax relief will become money like the plant facility levy that we could use for deferred maintenance projects. And that would come into the district, as we don't have a bond or any other levy on the books. So we really want the levy to pass. 'Cause that's- But
Well, I want to make sure I understand, because we're mostly talking about what you got in the FY25 column, correct? Except, you talked about John Brown, doing John Brown this summer. Exterior,
exterior, correct.
which is really lined out for 26.
Which 26 starts in July, so technically.
Okay, well, that's fine. What my question was going to be this: have you thought about how you're going to bid this? In other words, for that project, for sure, you got to have a general contractor. These other buildings where you got essentially what are normally subcontractors, you're going to put them under this general contractor. You're going to bid that separate, or have you thought about that?
Well, I think
Tim will,
be
for
our
the
general.
all intents and
Yeah,
purposes.
for, like
be
the
general.
electrician for Lakeland Middle School, they will just be a contractor.
Electrical contractor.
Correct. And I'll run the project.
You'll act as
Basically,
the general, okay.
babysit 'em.
That's fine. And the same with plumbing issues?
Correct.
Okay, so the only place we'd have a general contractor probably would be John Brown in that.
Potentially.
That major
Yeah.
project.
Yeah,
Correct.
major project.
Which
yeah.
I will still oversee.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, cause just don't want what
Yeah.
happened.
But most of the time when you bid something like that out of that scope, it is a general contractor that has subs to do the
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah.
that is the model that I would anticipate to see.
Yeah.
Some of those electrical issues are big enough. Let's see, what was I looking at?
Lakeland Middle
So you
School
got, you got $1 million in that one.
will definitely need a full-scale electrician, commercial crew coming in.
Right. And they have to have public works license.
Public Works, make them do the bid bond, performance bond.
Thing.
The whole 9 yards.
Some of the, I mean, whether or not you can get one electrical contractor to do all those electrical jobs might be a question.
Exactly, and I thought about that as well as some of the concrete projects.
Yes, same things.
Might have to have one guy do this one guy do this one. So when we do the bid for electrical work, it'll be school specific, so it'll be separate bids. So that way we're not tied to one contractor to do it
For the
all.
whole thing.
It's the same thing that we're doing with the concrete projects. We'll have the base bid, but we'll have alternate bids as well. So if another company comes in cheaper, say at Garwood, we would be able to utilize multiple companies to get the work done.
Yeah, well, no, I like the fact you would bid those as independent projects, because if you get 5 bidders, you potentially could have 3 different contractors
And then get-
working for you, which is a lot to
Getting
keep
more done
track
all
of.
at once.
A lot to keep track of
But
for
it's in
sure.
our favor from a dollar standpoint.
Exactly.
And to be able to get it done in a
And to be able to get it done.
Quicker
right
if
in
you've
a timely
got
way.
3
Yeah,
contractors doing the
exactly.
work instead of
Absolutely.
3
one
sets of
having to go
crews.
from, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, cause when they have to jump around, things get missed, get
Yeah.
screwed up.
I will come back to that.
Time loss.
Yeah, heard that before.
Okay. I'll quit.
So that was all of the projects that we had outlined in the RFQ. Essentially, Twin Lakes isn't in there. Betty Keeper and Garwood both have some projects that we could definitely loop in because taking out a lot of the interior money, there's room to bring Betty Keeper and Garwood into these projects. The only building that really didn't have a ton of stuff was Timberlake Middle School. They're more towards 2030, and then Twin Lakes because they're one of our newest buildings. So, are there any questions on the projects that we've outlined for the board?
What are the technology funds?
I saw that at Mountain View, there was technology
Well,
though.
there's technology dollars in a lot of them, so.
So based on how the state classified technology. to cooperate.
Internet being slow.
So technology would be things like the computer technology infrastructure, telephones and public address and intercom systems. Some of that would be like our PA systems throughout the building, and then
The lockdown system.
the lockdown system, things like that. I don't feel we maybe need as much money as that has been built into that line item.
You know, a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, this was all built off of the surveys that were done for each iteration of the building. So it's different. I mean, we could pay a company. There's companies out there that come in. Amoresco is one of them that would come in and create whole facilities plan for us, but they're upwards of $70,000 to $80,000 to do a full district. But then we would have a.
Well, I don't think anybody's questioning where the money's going
Yeah.
to go, with the understanding that for years, some of our buildings have just been neglected.
Would not disagree with that.
You know, other people just felt that was appropriate for whatever reason. So it's just making sure that we are being financially responsible with the repair work that needs to be done all throughout the district.
Yeah, you've got electrical of 4.6 and fire and safety for 4.1, but you've got over $5 million in technology across the district, so.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So then like I said, I feel like some of these were a best guess estimate. I don't necessarily, if you're asking me where our issues lie, it's electrical systems, fire panels, sprinklers, plumbing,
HVAC.
and HVAC. And I feel like we've done a really good job with roofs, and the siding, windows, and doors at John Brown, and a couple exterior doors at a couple of the other buildings. But for the most part, I really think for the safety of our buildings, these aging electrical systems are a problem, and so I would advocate wholeheartedly to make that the biggest priority as we continue to move through this HVAC, electrical, some plumbing, siding, windows, and doors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the total for HVAC?
1 second. I should have had all of these too. And keep in mind this is over the 10-year course, so some of this,
Yeah, it's not needed this
and we
year.
may end up getting more out of a system or less out of a system, just depending on conditions. We have a great crew that maintains everything.
Yeah, I will say the preventive maintenance program that they put together has been extremely helpful. As a matter of fact, they've caught wires that are starting to rub raw and caught them before they got zapped.
So it's 7.7 million for HVAC. Again, that's based on a best guess estimate based off of a survey. It's not taking the actual equipment into.
How much do we have in plumbing?
I would argue we would need more there, so I'd like to rob from interiors to make that happen, but let me calculate that.
I can do that with 18.
Good question.
I wonder if I should ask a dumb question.
There's no dumb questions. So that's 2.69. Not true. When it comes to money, there's no dumb questions.
2.69.
For plumbing.
For plumbing, yeah. So,
That's without moving anything into where we don't have.
From
Yeah, because
interior.
John Brown needs plumbing.
Yeah, but again, we can pull from the interiors for that.
But, right, because this is a 10-year plan, it's not just the school modernization dollars that are feeding
No,
into
I
this plan.
yeah, no, I understand that.
With the caveat that these aren't guaranteed numbers either, so some might come in
Mhm.
more, some might come in less. So it's just a
The
good.
goal is just less.
Yeah.
What I am curious about is you said we got 17, what on million?
17.916.
Okay. What type of, I mean, I would assume that we're gonna be earning interest on
We
that
are.
money.
Mhm.
Where is that money going?
In the LGIP, currently it's sitting in an interest account in the LGIP. In the state memo, it states that we can transfer that money out. That's another potential for next year is some of the interest money could help supplement the facilities budget, similar to plant facility levy funds. However, my caution is if for some reason the state doesn't hit its revenue marks for sales tax, how they're going to pay the payment on the bond, they can claw back some of this money. So it would be in our best interest to stagger a little bit just because we don't have the fund balance to pay back $2 million potentially. I don't think they would ask for that. It's dependent on if they can pay their bond payment or not. The revenues for the state are down. They've missed their projections for the last 3 months. So it just gives me cause for concern.
Okay.
So that's the caveat on that one. So yes, currently we're keeping it in this fund. It's there, but we can transfer it out for facility use.
Okay.
So it is in a separate, I was going to ask that same question.
It's in a separate fund, yeah, Fund 436.
So when you do the budget presentation, we probably want to highlight that so that
Mhm.
patrons and the board recognize it and see it.
Mhm.
And it is in a completely separate account from all the rest of our LGIP.
So we just
investments.
finished all of our LGIP. We had some paperwork that we had to do that's in, so it'll be transferred very quickly. We had paperwork that had to be signed to get it set up. So we're tracking it currently and tracking the interest related to it so that it can all be transferred to the correct LGIP.
What's current interest rate, do you know?
Give me 1 second.
4.
No, it's not 4.
4 plus?
Based on our most recent. Financial. So the distribution yield was 4.48 for February. It's slowly going down. We had a high last February at 5.44, and since last February, it's been ticking down slowly. We were still at 5.18 at the beginning of this fiscal year, and now we're at 4.48. I anticipate we'll continue to see that trend of that revenue going down.
What's the current balance out of the 18 that we have?
We have received the full 17,916.
Okay.
There's legislation, I need to double check and see where that's at. There was proposed legislation. I had sent you guys, or had provided you information that the state was super excited that the bond proceeds came in more than $1 billion. And so they had 86.5 million extra that came in above and beyond the billion, so that they were gonna distribute that out based on the percentages that they used to distribute the original money. However, once the legislature heard that, they said, whoa, let us decide how to distribute that. So there is there's language out there right now to maybe change the intent to give it to rural school districts, which we would qualify. We have a rural designation, so we potentially might just get the original amount that they said we would get, which they never gave us a number on, or they may only split it between rural, which is a lot smaller number, so we could potentially get more than if they were to just distribute it like they distributed the original. So we're waiting to see where that landed. I'll look that one up and see.
So based on approximate $18 million on deposit at 4.5%, what's the monthly income?
I think last month it was 75,000, but let me just double check. We finally got the full deposit last month. We had about 11 million originally. That's the money that we received in December.
So it'll produce that up until the point where you start tapping it.
Yep. As long as the interest rate stays steady.
Yeah. Which is probably gonna drop a little bit more.
Yeah, I would anticipate it would drop.
Is it money market?
No, it's the state investment.
Oh, it's a state.
So in 436, we already, as of the end of February, we had $91,000 in there. March will be our first full month with the $17,916,838 in initial proceeds. Like I said, we received the last portion of it, the $6 million that we hadn't received yet in February. So March will be our first full month with the full almost 18 in there. But there's a little bit more than 18 in there because of the interest right now.
So if you delayed doing anything for 4 years, how much?
I don't. So I will tell you,
did
Trustee
help
Jones,
us out.
I have to file a report with the state that tells them how we're planning to use the money.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm accountable to the state to tell them that we have a plan and we're moving
I'm looking
forward.
for a way to generate.
Right. And we've definitely be strategic in how we're doing this and making sure that we're doing projects in a timeline to continue to generate proceeds. That's definitely a smart
Right,
business
I gotta
decision.
ask this last dumb question, which I just asked the superintendent over here. You got about $46 million in projects laid out here. How are you gonna do that with 18 million bucks?
So the state is fully aware that this was never going to touch everything. If you look at everything that was in the state system, based on our coding, it was over $100 million that we needed to be able to do our projects over the next 30 years. 18 million is a scratch on the surface. That's where we really start looking at, do we run another plant facility levy in the future to be able to continue on with some of these projects? The state has made it known that they would like to continue this process, but it's like a once every 10-year kind of thing potentially. I'd like to see them step up that schedule, but that's on the projected revenues of the state to be able to do that. The bonding process was quite the undertaking. We had to go through a lot of required training to even get the money. So, so at this point in time, unless we are able to receive the full property tax relief funds, we did not have a levy on the books. If that came through,
So
that would
once
be a
you
source.
have accomplished everything you kind of got laid out for this year, are you gonna take a reorientation of everything else you got on the book?
Yeah, so Tim,
To reprioritize all of that stuff?
and Tim has been working diligently with his team to make sure he's in agreement with how this 10-year plan is laid out, but just to make sure that that 30-year matrix that we have is updated appropriately. So that's the IPLP goals for Tim. So unbeknownst to him.
Should probably write that down.
So.
But yes, to answer your question, we're definitely going to
You
reevaluate.
have to.
It's a moving
It's
target.
a moving target.
Especially with our HVAC systems and the preventive maintenance that we have going on. I think is just going to extend the life of the systems that we have. Some of them are beyond repair. I think electrical and plumbing fixes are going to save us with a lot of damage down the road potential.
Well, you got the bulk of that in the first 2 years, which is about 13 million. So that
And
leaves-
that's if we can get all that work done in those first 2 years.
Yeah,
So
right.
those are a lot of projects.
Right, yeah, particularly 27 is really heavy. With some of that. So, yeah. Laying out a schedule plan is equally as important as the financial plan.
Exactly. So with all of that information, I guess I'm seeking board direction. Are you all right if we move forward with the Lakeland Middle School electrical, John Brown siding, windows and doors for this summer? Or do you want us to bring that to the April board meeting for official approval? How would you like us to move forward?
Yeah, we don't
Are
have any
eligible
action
to-
items for tonight, so we can't make a.
I wasn't consulted on the agenda. I didn't.
Yeah, no, no, I'm just saying that we can't, I'm just saying that we
Should have
can't
asked for a
tonight,
workshop
so.
slash special meeting.
Well, no, I
Yeah.
didn't have any input on the agenda.
It was a really quick turnaround, this one.
Well, I don't have any problem with what you've laid out. I mean, if you want to continue on with your preliminary planning until you can get a final approval from us. It's unfortunate we can't give you that tonight, but I don't know the rest of
Start the process.
Yep, that's what
Yeah,
we'll do.
I agree.
And then as part of the budget process for FY26, the plan is to bring you projects with the FY26 budget related to the school modernization funds for approval during the budgeting process, so that we can move forward with those and not have to bring them back to piecemeal. Obviously, we'll bring contracts back to, but at least if we can get the projects approved that we know we can complete in the next year, the planned projects, if we can bring that as part of the budgeting process, then we can move forward from there and bring you contracts as we get them.
Well, and then we're not getting piecemeal. Can we do the project?
Yeah.
It's all, we can look at it in one.
Yeah.
One should be more concise.
Yeah, I would love to bring you concise stuff. Any other information that we can provide for you in the future on this plan?
Lakeland is not unique in where we are with our facilities and the need for $100 million to take care of everything. The state definitely recognizes that there's a need across the entire state. Everybody
the
is.
State Department recognizes that. I'm not sure the legislature does.
Right. But there is a plan to reissue bonds in 10 years after these bonds have been paid off, and kind of go through the process again to continue to put money into facilities. But there's just a lot of time in between each one of those cycles.
You'll have 90% different legislators and a different governor by that time. So.
This is true. That is true. But the entire state is in the same boat.
We done with this one?
We move on to the RFQ.
That's just all the information we just got
That's all.
discussed, backed up to the RFQ that we have out there. That RFQ bids are due this Thursday. And so we'll bring the responses to the board for consideration and approval moving forward. The reason we went out for RFQ for this, I'd like to have, instead of going out every time we're trying to do a project, I wanted to consolidate and have a company that we were working with. Obviously, if it's not working out, that's our prerogative to change that, but it allowed us to move forward in a positive manner instead of having to bid these out individually.
More efficient manner.
Yeah.
So if we're, just there isn't plumbing on as many schools as we've just discussed
So the
in
caveat,
this, so.
yeah, the caveat is we get to pick and choose, and it may change. So that is in there, that this is what we think is going to happen, but that is subject to change. So it will change.
And this is qualifications,
Yeah.
so we're not asking for a bid or anything, so
No.
it just, okay.
Yeah, we have a whole grading criteria that'll go. We actually have 2 RFPs that are due this Friday. So we have this one and audit services that are not Friday, Thursday, excuse me. We have 2 that are due this Thursday. So.
So did you want to discuss your vehicles?
Yeah, we brought this just to show kind of the state of the vehicles. Shanna, who put this together for me. Basically, got all the information together. She was in the process of getting pictures and everything that we can present later as well. But just wanted to show you what we have on hand and the state of some of the vehicles. The vans that were purchased, 14, 15, 16, and 17, seem to be working great. They're getting high in miles, but they are serving their purpose. A lot of our HVAC guys are driving these, and carries all their tools and everything. So that was a good pickup. The older equipment that we have the John Deere loader. It's a 71, but we don't have to drive that thing very far. It still works great. If you drive it, say, to Betty Kiefer, it will overheat and they have to park it along the road to cool down.
Between the facilities department and Betty Kiefer?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's only 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
It's the same with the backhoe.
That's kind of why we were looking at a trailer that could haul some of the heavier equipment. But you know, it's a 1971, and it's we just used it the other day, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it still does a job. John Deere is a good machine. The dump truck is, I don't even know if that thing's running right now.
I believe it needs master cylinders, and like Les Schwab won't even touch it.
Correct.
So why don't we use K-Tech and NIC? Because all we have to do is pay for parts. When the kids get experience, we take vehicles over there during the summer when we're not using them, get them gone through.
Or maybe
whatever.
we are using them more in the
I
summer.
think
The
there
summertime
aren't
though.
any kids that will work on them in the summertime. K-Tech's
And I do
Plan it
know
out through the year.
with NIC, there's a year that they won't go past.
Yeah,
It has to
K-Tech is the
be
same.
a newer model vehicle, because that's more what students will see. So we could definitely look into it.
I'll look into it for sure.
But I do know that there's a cutoff on the vehicle age, that they won't touch them after a certain point.
We took a 1993 diesel over there thinking the same thing, and they couldn't do anything with it.
I would almost think the older vehicles are easier to work
Yeah,
on.
They
Yeah,
are.
but-
That's not what the kids are gonna see when
True.
they get out into the workforce.
I miss the older
That's where you
ones.
learn the basics.
Yes, I agree.
No, I'll definitely
What's
look
that?
into
As
that.
I'm rebuilding a
What's that old truck
73.
that's a dually sitting there? What's that? What's wrong
The
with that?
is that the one, the Chevy one
That
ton?
one is
He's probably
the-
talking about Sean's old truck.
The dually? I think it's a dually.
it's got a blown motor through a rod.
Oh, yeah,
We
low
still
motor.
have an Oldsmobile in there. Wasn't that a driver's ed car?
That was, I believe, the superintendent's vehicle.
The superintendent's
What?
vehicle.
1999,
I
that
think-
beige four-door.
I think-
Superintendent drove
I
district
believe
car.
Mr. Kenzie drove a vehicle.
Is it the
Drove it.
Oldsmobile?
Must be nice.
It's over there if you want it.
Yeah.
Is that the one that has the bees come out of it?
Yeah.
That one
It
is.
is.
Old station wagon?
No, the
No.
station wagon is gone.
Oh, it's gone.
It's an Oldsmobile four-door.
It's in pieces.
So that some of these vehicles
We
will bring
originally
to you
bought that
at
from
the
Driver's
April
Ed.
board meeting, just for permission to dispose. There's an auction company that we would like to use to get rid of some of these ones that don't run, and along those lines. So we'll bring those at the April board meeting for permission to
There's a-
surplus.
Post Falls has an auto.
Post
Yeah,
That's where I
that's
wanna
where
take
we
'em.
want to take them.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones around, and we can
And
at
they
least.
go about every, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like that?
Depends on their inventory,
Yeah, it
but
depends.
it's been picking up lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's some in here that definitely are at that point where they don't run very well. So, which one is it that won't get out of fourth gear?
That would be the trash truck.
The trash truck.
We can't run it
Yes.
in fifth. It's a manual,
I think we got a new
and it doesn't go over 40 miles an hour.
Which one was she asking?
The scissor lift or the man lift? Is the man lift the
We
newest
have
one?
we have two. One's a scissor lift and one is a man lift.
The man lift is the newest one that we've purchased.
Oh.
I don't know.
what was brought to us was a scissor lift, so I guess we didn't buy the scissor lift, we bought the man lift.
We have
Or
a
man.
We have a scissor lift. I think
hear what
it's,
you're saying. Okay.
that was before my time. I'm just looking.
No, I understand that.
See if it was.
I just
On
know
here.
the lifts are.
Oh, the lift's down there. Okay, I see. Yeah, the man lift is a 2015. And the scissor lift's a 2003. Yeah, and in reality, we need a second scissor lift. We're constantly transporting them back and forth, Timberlake and Lakeland.
Each one of your guys drive a vehicle.
Yes, except
We're one vehicle short
we
per
are
person.
one vehicle short.
Well, that take into account.
You got
the
enough vehicles
restructure.
that is to all run.
Correct.
Does that take into account the restructure?
What you use the automobile for?
Oh, no. Restructure will eliminate
Somebody's
the need
driving
for
the
one.
wagon. Somebody do something.
I don't know how you would put, I mean, it's big enough to put two of them there, I guess.
Which, oh, the Oldsmobile?
I mean, beggars can't be choosers.
I don't think it runs at all.
The Oldsmobile?
Yeah.
It does.
Does it?
It does.
Oh, it's actually pretty smooth.
It is a smooth ride.
Once you get past the bees coming out every which way.
It's like being on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I looked at it, all the seats were ripped out of it.
The back seat was pulled out because of something with the fuel tank. The fuel pump needed to be replaced or something.
Oh.
Making room for
We didn't
tools.
put it back in.
It did
you're
not get
retrofitting
put
this
back
car.
in properly.
Okay. Okay. So is there more to discuss on your maintenance bid?
No, I just wanted to show you what we had right now, because I know that in the near future we are going to be asking for replacement for a couple of these. It's, again, kind of like roofs and everything else. Get one every couple of years to keep up with the fleet.
Maybe like in July
Just-
or August? Okay.
Yeah, once we get through whatever we're going through right now.
That should also come through budget process.
You maybe already
Good
know,
point.
Tim, that, the old backhoe and I think the loader
That's part of the
were
projection.
bought from state surplus originally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, I don't know if you follow that, but it's
I
worth
do.
following
Yeah.
because, if you need to get rid of these and get a little bit newer one, that's a good place to do it.
Matter of fact, there is an auction house on Beck Road that sells some of this type of equipment as well.
Yeah.
And I did talk to, so the state has a couple different surplus programs. In the old days, you could just go to DRMO, the military side of the house, and literally sign out what you wanted. Now everything goes through public auction and third-party dealers. I did talk to the state that deals with military and other governmental agencies surplus, and it's not just vehicles, it's everything.
Everything, yes.
And they said they'll even go and find what we need and find it for a, the decent price that's, within budget. You're not paying new pricing. And then they have a little finder's fee that goes on top of it, but it's definitely worth looking into for some of those items.
Good way to go.
I actually was looking into those big giant military style heaters that you could, if the hose is this big, you can throw it in a building and heat a building in the wintertime, runs off diesel. And they did have some of those as well. But little things that can help save money where we can, for sure. So, yep, that's all I had on that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or want to have further discussion on any of the documents that we were provided with?
We're gonna look at the plant facility levy stuff.
Oh yeah, I suppose we could do that.
So on that, you'll see some of the budgets that were set aside for specific projects like the parking lots, the carpet continuation program, the Betty Kiefer carpet, the fence repair that we discussed at the last board meeting, and some of these other items that were previously budgeted.
So the things that we had brought to you, specifically at the board meeting last Wednesday.
March.
Yeah, yeah, the last board meeting in March. My days are running together. I apologize. We put the money back into, like I said, into the carpet continuation projects and the VCT tile.
Right.
We did have to use some money from the emergency repairs line item in order to leave $45,000 in the LMS carpet abatement and flooring. And we liquidated the line for the Lakeland High School tennis courts. I do still have the line item in there for the 107 for the change order that we will not use because I wasn't clear on the motion whether or not that was included or not in what we could rebudget. We did add the fence line in there. We could move, we will definitely swap that out for the Timberlake boiler system or Twin Lakes boiler system unless you want to use that for the 18 million. I'll just bring this back at the April board meeting just to make sure that we have all of these permissions in place. We did not put in the truck or the custodial equipment that Tim had asked for with the intention of kind of trying to just see where that 107 landed and if we were going to move the Twin Lakes boiler over to the 18 million line item. And then wanting to identify what pots of money are the unaccounted for funds, unobligated funds, and what things, for example, the Lakeland High School irrigation, you were thinking you could do that in-house for way less than $20,000.
Correct. We have an individual, Adam, who specializes in that irrigation, and it's just as easy for us to do it in-house than to pay someone else to do it.
So that will save us some money. So with the thought of being able to maybe create a emergency fund for next fiscal year out of the remaining funds that have not been obligated in the plant facility levy fund. So we'll highlight all of that and be very clear and concise for the board meeting in April.
Okay. I did ask the clerk if she could give me the language that I used, but we don't have that yet.
And I went back and listened to it a couple times, but we talked. There was a lot that was in that one, so I apologize. Yeah.
And it was late.
Well, I know the one thing that I did not include, because I didn't agree with it, was using
building budgets. Yep.
budgets.
So
to
I left those alone.
accomplish.
I left the building budgets alone, and I left the 107,000 alone because I knew the building budgets were one we did not touch, but the 107 was the part that I was unclear on. But we'll go through each project with you guys again on that April board meeting and just say these are where we think that we can save some funds.
I do believe the 107 was included.
Okay, perfect.
But I would have to listen to my motion, which is, I mean, part of the whole thing, because I know I re-clarified for Bob because he wanted to know about the emergency money. Why would we? And I said that was your recommendation or the district's recommendation for us to utilize all of the emergency money, but I was not going to use the building budgets.
And that was very clear. I didn't touch those at all.
Right.
I just wanted to double check that one piece. So we will again highlight everything. Like I said, we'll be able to save some money on the bleachers at Lakeland Middle School. We'll be able to save some money on the Lakeland High School irrigation. So there's different pots there that I think that we can really identify what we would like to maybe set aside as a budget item for next year.
I know the irrigation was a ballpark, and
the original bid we got for it came in at almost 30,000. So
which we laughed at.
Yes,
so
we absolutely did.
Got a couple of line items in here for plumbing and electrical and rooftop units, which would be HVAC.
I think those were.
Are those gonna drop off of this since we're gonna use the other funds for that?
They were already done, so if you look in the
Oh, they're already done.
the last column, so the 3 rooftop units at John Brown were done this last summer. So there's a 0 ending balance there.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, so we used all the money there. Those were taken care of.
Yeah, in a hurry.
Mhm.
Who owns that? Who owns the fence that runs down the outskirts of the driveways into Twin and that goes around that house that sits in the middle? Is that our fence or is that the neighbor's fences?
So I think that fence was put up when we built Twin Lakes Elementary. That was one of the conditions of the neighbor. There were some issues there, and so I think we funded that fence. I do.
You see, because the one to the west, when those trees fell, there's parts of those fences that have been
Damage.
damaged in this year's windstorm. I just didn't know. And then I know one tree fell from the interior onto the fence and stuff, but I can't remember if there's damage.
Yeah, and I think she took it down.
I think she took it because it was in her, the majority of it was in her property.
It was like a double that
I was
had
afraid
came
some of the
down.
buses as they came through because it stretched out, so we brought the buses around the other way.
We sent a very nice request to her to remove
I
that
just didn't know
tree.
who owned it. It's the far west.
I would say
Fence
we.
line.
But is the
Oh.
fence on our property or is it on
That's-
her property?
That's.
I know what it's doing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember that whole field.
Yeah, I just don't know who
about.
owned, it's not her, it's not
The
her building,
fence.
because she sits here.
Yeah.
But it's so that west driveway, it's this fence here that goes against those houses over here. That has the top bar and the fencing pieces all coming down because the branches and trees from those big ones that fell across the road damaged that fence there. But I said, no, that's our fence or their fence.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's ours.
Probably all ours.
So that's still damaged.
I mean, all of the trees and everything obviously been long cleared off, but there's been snow still up against it for.
Concrete walls.
Yeah.
Eliminate
You
those.
haven't been able to get to the base of the
Concrete
fence
walls.
yet.
Okay.
Put little
Because
meters
it's
in
been
there.
snow.
Because I know I did bring it up to the guys to come up and fix that, so maybe it was the snow that was.
Yeah, the snow definitely could have been it. I just don't know.
They
what time
would.
that
They'd get in trouble just so they could like.
Okay, any more questions on the
How,
budget?
You made comment that the LMS bleachers are gonna come in under budget. Do you know how much?
Yes, so we approved, I think at the last board meeting, it was just under, it was 98,000 and some change. So
Okay.
there's about $5,000 there. We did get a request after the fact to add one more little bank of bleachers, but with the performance and payment bonds on there, it would have put it over the $105,000 line item. So we said
Well,
no.
the painting's already over budget.
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So that 11,170 is just for the middle school,
The
the fence project?
I think that was paid as well.
that was part of the
Oh.
in FY24. That was
Right.
part of the grant funds for the 220,000 that we received for the.
6 foot.
What was that called? I can't even remember.
Securing
Our future grant. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
So opening 50,000. Wow, that's a lot of
Probably
dollars.
sell those bleachers that we have stored.
Yes.
Mhm.
We can bring that as a
Definitely.
surplus item in April as well.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring you guys so much fun stuff in April. It'll be the Jess and Tim show again.
So, can we denote on these when it's a finished project? Like you have
Yep.
we have the Garwood and the Betty Kiefer playground
If you
equipment.
scroll to the next page, so page 2
Scroll
and
down
4,
there.
I have the project
Different
status.
spreadsheet there.
So the top page is just budget versus what our expenditures are. The next 2 pages is the detail, and it shows the project status and the
Oh,
notes
yeah.
associated
Yeah.
with it. So they do show that it's completed on those.
I can't tell if you're happy or not.
Well, okay, so the print is very small. So
I
then we tried to make
apologize.
it bigger, and then I was playing with the mouse and it went woo, and then it all disappeared because it was so big. And then I had to make it go down, and then it was like micro.
You're looking in the center of a zero.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
Pretty much.
I apologize. I try to put these in a PDF so that they're a set document. We used to link in the Google sheet that these were on, and I don't like doing that because those change every month.
Yeah, we don't like.
Yeah, we don't
So
like that.
that's why you get the small print. I'm sorry. I want to make sure it all gets on a page.
What's this assist with bus purchase that was canceled? Wasn't that the activity buses?
No, that was, we thought we would, when we were doing bus bids before, we thought that when we sat down on July 18th of last year,
Okay.
we thought we would need some money to maybe buy additional buses. We ended up not doing that, so we canceled that one, so that line item was zeroed out at that time, and we rebudgeted it when we went, okay, let's see, so July of, was it 24? It was, that money was used to do the Lakeland Middle School projects. So we repurposed that money towards the middle school projects because we didn't need to use the money towards the bus purchase.
We didn't think there was going to be enough in
Mhm.
depreciation.
Yeah, but now there's enough to buy 4 buses, so we're moving along.
You got status on all this parking lot stuff as seeking quotes. Where are we on that?
Tim.
That's the concrete, or
I
the
know,
parking
that's
lot.
parking lot,
Yeah.
pavement and refinishing,
So-
and striping and sealing.
Is this seal coat plus striping? Is that what it is?
It's seal coat plus striping on the lower dollar amount projects and then repairs on some of the higher
Yeah, 'cause
amount
there's some
projects.
places where we need repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
There's-
things that we're looking at with the concrete projects, for John Brown especially, that you can basically drive into the front doors of John Brown right now. So one of the things that we're looking at is putting an actual approach and a curb so that you can't just straight in. It'll have more of a lip, so you can't just run right
Let me
into the
make a
building.
suggestion
It wouldn't
there.
hurt to have stanchions out
Yeah.
front or
Yeah.
Is that
Big
just like
boulders.
barriers?
Yeah.
Street out here
like
is a
what's in front of
mess.
Walmart, you know, just
The
round
city is looking at
concrete.
redoing that
Okay,
street
so
this
like the
summer,
one
so
I've
we're
seen
in,
at the post
we're
Okay, well,
reaching out to them.
Yeah,
Because they
coordinate
have
your
these
concrete
things
work
Yep.
with that.
in front of them.
That's our
things,
plan.
But if you go in between,
Mm.
And
make it through.
there's John Brown parking lot on
Yes.
those two supporting that.
Yeah, so we're coordinating all of that together. Same with Lakeland Middle School, adding a little bit more of a curb so the kids are not literally standing in the drive path. The Lakeland Middle School does a good job of trying to keep the kids on the sidewalk, but there's a lot of them out there before school starts, and as a parent that drives through there every single day, they terrify me. They're not aware of their spatial surroundings at all.
They're middle schoolers.
I know.
I have more important things to think about.
I know.
They're looking at their phones.
It's
Especially
terrifying.
her. Or him.
Yeah.
So we're looking at, one of the things that we asked as part of the concrete specs is a way to address some of those issues. So adding a little bit more of a lip so it's not just even with the parking lot, so that there's more of a mark for the students. Like I actually have to step off the curb to step into the parking lot instead of just, making it one giant area that they stand. So safety.
Well, and I know Spirit Lake's not on here. Are we considering their parking lot at all?
When we met back in July for this, those were kind of where we landed with parking lots.
No, I understand. I'm asking if they're in the future anywhere.
If we have
because-
some fun money somewhere that comes in for this, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I
but-
know that the prior facilities director, his intention was to tear it all up and redo it.
Right.
But that doesn't solve the problem that it's a very dysfunctional parking lot.
I don't disagree. So we
So-
could potentially not do one of these in order to do that one. But right now, with how the projects have been approved and we're seeking quotes, this is the direction that we were given to move forward in. So if we want to repurpose some money that is not obligated in another manner, we can definitely do that and add Spirit Lake. They just were not on the approved projects list for this year.
Were they included in that 18 million by chance?
Not for exteriors. There's so many interior things on buildings that have to be replaced. We're not looking at concrete or sidewalks or.
So what you're saying is
parking
they're
lots.
nowhere in the future.
Unless we have
Okay.
some money to do that
What you
from another
might
source.
think about doing is, while you're out for quotes, you're not actually bidding that.
It's right under the threshold for me to go to a full sealed bid.
I was gonna say you might put Spirit Lake on as an alternate some way or another, and depending on how your concrete bids come in, you might have some money there to.
Or some of that interest.
And that's at the board's
If we wait
discretion.
4
Yeah.
years, I mean,
Mhm.
we might be rich.
Yeah.
One thing we did do at Spirit Lake is the transition between the highway and the parking lot. There's that giant gap. We filled it in with cold mix, so you don't have that abrupt landing coming into the parking lot.
Yeah, the cop parks there a lot every morning.
Yeah.
So.
We gave him a nice landing pad.
There we go. I'm glad we helped that out. I'm just more concerned with the all of it. I mean, there's
No, it
nothing
is.
pretty
It's-
about it whatsoever.
You're correct.
So, just for giggles, maybe we
But
could
yes, I will do that.
see what it's
I will
gonna
add
take.
them as an alternate just to get pricing for it, see where it
Yeah, well,
lands.
at least it would tell you what it's gonna cost.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
If we piggyback with the city on the asphalt work on Washington for the potential, whatever we're doing with John Brown parking lot, would there be an ability there to have some savings if
Potentially.
Potentially.
It just depends on the contractor doing the project, and how they
they
bid
could
it.
do the whole thing kind of all at the same time?
And if we're on the same timeline as the city, I don't know, when the city plans to kick that off, or if they're still planning to kick that off, so. But that was my understanding, is they were planning on doing Washington this summer.
That's what
I hope so. It's a mess.
It is lovely.
is.
I might know somebody that.
You might know somebody that knows.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
I'm
handy.
thinking about that.
Oh, good idea.
So
I love
when
that
you
you
do
have
something in tandem with a city project, the tonnages that get utilized have to be split accordingly. Because the city pays prevailing, we don't really pay prevailing.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily be.
It's, you can get some cost savings because of the mobilization costs and things like that. And if they are a good contractor, they should be able to work with whoever's taking tickets out there from the city to delineate between city project and school project.
You might be in bed. It's almost 8.
Is there anything on here that anyone at this point in time wants to have a reconsideration on?
No.
Nope.
Thank you guys so much. I just want to say I recognize this was a very quick turnaround for this meeting, and I appreciate your time to hear out all of the
we
things
like
that we're
it.
looking at. I know you love it.
You get to buy lunch next time.
Okay.
Better than playing cook then.
Can I make you cupcakes instead? I'm really good at cupcakes.
Sure, I
Okay.
don't care anybody at all. It's food.
You know.
Missed the days of dinner, huh?
This is our spoiler over here.
Yeah.
It's not in the budget.
But if
I'm
you wait
pretty-
4 years.
I'm pretty mean about that budget, I'll tell you. Nobody likes to hear no. I'm a popular person.
Alright, so are we good to end the meeting?
I think so.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:59.
Team.